Welcome to this on-demand webinar for Easy Agile Programs for Jira. Today, I'm going to walk you through the three components that make up Easy Agile Programs. First, the program roadmap. This is the highest layer in Easy Agile Programs where release train engineers can share a timeline view of their program increments, view feature-level dependencies, and create and view program milestones. Secondly, the middle layer, the increment overview. This view provides a rolled up, at-a-glance view of all of the teams within a program, the work they've scheduled in their sprints, and the inter-team dependencies that exist between them. And finally, the team planning boards. This is where each team in a program has access to their own backlog, can create and schedule existing issues into their PI sprints, and most importantly, where teams can come to create simple drag and drop dependencies. Let's get started. Once installed, Easy Agile Programs can be found under the Boards dropdown in the Jira Global Navigation menu. Clicking on View All Programs will take you to the Programs list. Here, release train engineers are able to view all existing programs and their current program increments, create new, or delete existing programs. In this example, we're going to walk through the Commercial Space Travel program. Clicking on a program name will drop you onto the program roadmap for your chosen program. This is the first of three components that make up Easy Agile Programs, and we'll walk through each element you're now seeing on your screen. The program roadmap is a timeline view of all the program increments that exist within your program. Here, release train engineers and product managers are able to do and see a few things. The blue boxes on the timeline represent our program increments. Inside these program increments, we're able to see the epics or features scheduled for the program increment in question. This provides a high-level overview of what we're hoping to achieve in this fixed time box. To schedule features or epics onto the timeline, click Edit Roadmap in the top right corner of the blue PI box. From the roadmap backlog, simply drag and drop your issues into the associated PI sprint columns. Features or epics can also span multiple sprints. Simply click and drag the edge of the issue to schedule it over multiple sprints. You'll also notice the coloured dependency lines running between features. These lines represent our feature-level dependencies that exist within our current program increment. A dependency icon will appear on features that have external feature-level dependencies to other programs or program increments. The program roadmap is also where program milestones can be created and visualized on the timeline. In this example, you see we have two visible milestones, start of beta period and pre-launch testing. To create a new milestone on the program roadmap, click the plus milestone button in the top right corner. Name your milestone, set a start date, and optionally an end date. Select a milestone color and hit save. Your milestone is now visible on your timeline. The program roadmap is where release train engineers can also create new program increments. To create a new program increment, click the blue New Increment button. When creating a new increment, we must give our increment a name. In this example, we'll call this increment Q1, we have liftoff. Optionally, enter the high-level objectives we want to achieve in this fixed period of time. Set a start date for the increment. Easy Agile Programs will auto-set the start date as after the last day of your previous PI, although this can be changed using the date picker. Set your sprint length and the number of sprints that make up your program increment. In this example, you can see I've selected 5 2-week sprints, bringing the total length of my program increment to 10 weeks. Click Create Increment. Your new empty increment is waiting for you on the timeline. Now that we have navigated our way around the program roadmap, it's time to drill down into the next component of Easy Agile Programs, the increment overview. To view the increment overview for a program increment, click on either the PI name or hit the View Increment button in the blue PI box. We are now viewing the increment overview for the Commercial Space Travel program. This is the second of three components that makes up Easy Agile Programs and is the connective tissue between the program and team layers. This is where release train engineers and stakeholders have an at-a-glance view of a program increment. We're now going to walk through the elements you're seeing on your screen. At the top of the increment overview, we have our increment roadmap. This roadmap showcases all of the features or epics that were scheduled into our blue PI box on our program roadmap. The roadmap issues run along the top of our PI sprints to visualize to our teams when work on these features or epics is expected to start and when it is due for completion. Beneath the increment roadmap, we can see the number of sprints that make up our program increment. These align our teams to a synchronized cadence. Down the left-hand side of our increment overview are the teams in our program. In Easy Agile Programs, a team is equal to an Agile board in Jira. So in essence, these are the names of the Agile boards we've chosen to include in our commercial space travel program. Beneath each team, we're able to see the work they've got planned under each of the PI sprints for this increment. You'll also notice the coloured dependency lines running between teams. These coloured dependency lines represent the nature or health of the dependency between the two issues. For example, a green dependency line indicates the dependent issue is scheduled in a sprint before its dependency and is therefore healthy. A red dependency line indicates the dependent issue is scheduled in a sprint after the dependency and is therefore a blocker or unhealthy. And an orange line indicates that the dependent and dependency are scheduled in the same sprint and is therefore a risk. Release train engineers are able to filter the work shown on the increment overview in two ways. First, by dependency health. The dependencies filter allows you to display only the dependency kinds that you care about. For example, if I was interested in understanding where all the blockers in my program increment existed, I may choose to turn off the healthy and at-risk dependencies. We can also filter the increment overview to show the work linked to the features or epics on our increment roadmap. Clicking on a roadmap issue will filter all of the team's work to only show the issues linked to the feature or epic. This is a great way for a release train engineer to understand which teams are working on which feature and whether any work has been scheduled outside the scope of the feature or epic schedule. Now that we've navigated our way around the increment overview, it's time to drill down into the next component of Easy Agile Programs, the Team Planning Board. Click on the team's name on the increment overview to navigate to that team's planning board. You are now viewing the team planning board for the A Little Bit of Home team. This is the third and final layer that makes up Easy Agile Programs. This is where each team in a program would come for their team breakouts. Each team has their own team planning board where they have access to their own backlog, can create and schedule existing issues into their PI sprints pulled from their Agile board, and most importantly, where teams can come to create simple drag and drop dependencies. Let's walk through all the elements you're now seeing on your screen. Much the same as the increment overview, the increment roadmap sits at the top of the team planning board. Beneath the increment roadmap, we're able to see the name of the sprints from this team's Agile board that have been mapped to this program increment. Beneath the sprints, we're able to set the capacity for each of our team sprints. Estimating the work scheduled in our sprints will roll up to this section so that we can keep track of whether we're in scope or overcommitting for a sprint. We can see all of the work the teams have already scheduled beneath each sprint on our team planning board. Teams have access to the issues not scheduled in sprints on their Agile board by clicking on the blue backlog button in the top left corner. Teams can filter their scheduled work or work on their backlog by the features on their roadmap. This assists teams when prioritizing work during their sprint planning sessions. To schedule an issue from the backlog, simply drag and drop it into your sprint column. Teams can also create new issues on their team planning boards. Selecting a feature on the roadmap and then clicking on an empty space beneath the sprint column will create a new issue on the team's board, schedule it into its assigned sprint, and link the issue to the selected feature on the roadmap. The team planning board is where teams can identify and create dependencies on the work scheduled in other teams. Under the Teams drop-down, we see a list of all the team boards that are in our program. The coloured pills next to a team's name indicate that our team has dependencies with issues in another team's PI sprints. The number and colour of the pill also indicates the nature of those dependencies. In this example, we see we have one blocker and one healthy dependency with the billing platform team. Selecting a team from the drop-down will place that team and the work scheduled in their PI sprints beneath your team on the team planning board. Dependencies between teams will automatically be visualised. Shuffling the sequence of your work will update the health of the dependency and flag to both teams when the blocker has been eradicated. To create new dependencies, drag the dependent issue on top of the dependency. In this example, we're saying issue MB16 depends on the completion of Plat 13. As Plat 13 is due to start after MB16, the issue is flagged as a blocker. All changes made on the team planning board will be automatically reflected on the team's Agile board in Jira, and the increment overview will auto-update so that the release train engineer and stakeholders always have an up-to-date view of the progress of an increment. This brings us to the conclusion of this on-demand webinar. For any questions, please feel free to reach out directly to our support team. We look forward to hearing from you.